Yo, what's up? Avian here. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for not uploading earlier. Usually I upload this video on Sunday, but I had a lot of stuff to do while being pretty sick, but I'm back and I'm going to give you guys my top 25 and give you guys the reasons I think each team is in their position. Alright guys, so here's my top 25. This week was kind of crazy when it came to college football. There were a few upsets, definitely some shaking around the top 25, and a couple fakers got exposed, namely Texas A&M, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about all of that. Starting things off, I moved Georgia to number 1 instead of number 2, and Alabama down to 3, Ohio State in the middle at 2. Ohio State beat Arkansas State 45-12. They looked a little bit better this game, obviously because it's Arkansas State, but they're not really a bad team, and Ohio State didn't let them score a touchdown in this game. Granted, they got 4 field goals, but they definitely held their own down in the red zone. And then Georgia won their game 33-0 against Samford, and it really wasn't that impressive, but I do think Georgia looks better than Ohio State and Alabama right now, which is why I have them number 1. And the reason I have Ohio State above Alabama is because they've really underperformed. They played the sloppiest game I've ever seen Alabama play in a long time against Texas, and they should have lost that game. And I 100% believe that they would have lost that game if Quinn Ewers didn't go down or Hudson Card wasn't hurt. So they hang on by a thread. I still think they're better than like Michigan, Clemson, Oklahoma, SC, and all of them. That's why I have them at number 3, but they really underperformed, and I'm kind of disappointed in the Crimson Tide. Then after them, we got Michigan. They beat Hawaii 56-10 or something like that. Hawaii is the worst team in FBS, so obviously they're going to win that game. JJ McCarthy got his first start. He was like 11 for 12 with like 230 and had 3 touchdowns, but then again, it's Hawaii. They got to play a decent defense before we can give like an actual prediction or valuation on the guy. And then after them, we got Clemson. Clemson won their game 35-12 against Furman. And again, this game was just kind of weird because their quarterback, Tyler Huff, he was 30 for 39. This dude had 250 yards passing. He had a touchdown and interception. And DJ, he was 21 for 27, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like, I don't get why Clemson is having issues. They let Furman outgain them in yardage, and that's the reason why I have Michigan ahead of them. Clemson just looks bad. They need a revamp. They need to start Cade Klubnik and just move forward with him, because whatever they're doing right now just isn't working, and they're going to lose a few games if they keep DJ in, and it just kind of looks like that team is dead on the inside, including their defense. Then number 6, I have OU. They beat Kent State 33-3. Dylan Gabriel played pretty well. He was 21-28, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns. But they did not win this game too convincingly. I mean, 33 points against Kent State kind of seems low from what we're used to, but them only letting up 3 points is also something that we're not used to, because we're used to seeing OU give up at least 10 plus against teams like this, but also scoring like 60. So I don't know. I do think that they're a little above SC and Miami. Those are the next 2 teams I'm going to talk about. SC won their game 41-28 against Stanford, and let's be honest, they were just blowing Stanford out until the 4th quarter, where Stanford scored 14 points. It was already 41-14. This game was over. USC just has too many weapons. Caleb Williams 20 for 27, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. Travis Dye 14 carries, 105 yards. Jordan Addison 7 receptions, 172 yards. It's just kind of ridiculous. If they play a team that has a really good defense, obviously that's going to be a test for them, because themselves, they don't really have the best defense. But honestly, in these games, it's shown that they're competent. Then right behind them, I have Miami. They won their game 30-7 against Southern Miss, and honestly, I thought they would score more. I'm not going to lie. And they also let up a lot of passing yards in this game. I think Miami's defense has to come a little bit longer of a way if they're even going to be a threat in the ACC. I still think they put up a good fight against Clemson and teams like that, but I just think that they should win by more. Then I got Oklahoma State right behind them at number 9. They won their game 34-17 against Arizona State. They look sort of solid. This was kind of a good game, again, all the way up to the 4th quarter, and I'm kind of glad to see Oklahoma State only letting up 17 points in this game. Then after them, I have Kentucky sitting at 10. They beat Florida 26-16, and let me say this, guys, Anthony Richardson looked like absolute garbage in this game. A complete turnaround from the Utah game. And I knew that they were overrated. They shouldn't have been ranked 12th. They definitely are sitting at the back. They probably shouldn't have even beaten Utah. But yeah, I'm definitely pulling the brakes on the Florida Gators for right now. In all seriousness though, this was a pretty defensive game. Both quarterbacks didn't really play very well. Obviously Richardson, he was like 14 for 35, only had like 140 yards, 2 interceptions. Will Levis also had an interception. But I'm gonna keep Kentucky up at the top 10 because they beat a top 12 team. Then sitting right after them, I have BYU. They played Baylor, and they won that game 26-20 in 2 overtimes. Now I knew this was going to be a really good game, and I did expect Baylor to actually win late by like 3 or something like that, but it just didn't happen. Blake Shapen, he looked okay, 18 for 28, 137 yards, not really any shots downfield or anything like that. He did have a touchdown. Jaron Hall, he was 23 for 39, 261 yards, 1 touchdown. And I think this game was more about Jaron Hall and Chase Roberts, because Chase Roberts, he had 8 receptions, 122 yards. He was the real difference maker for them. Then at number 12, I have Utah, and they completely annihilated Southern Utah, 73-7. This game was even close. They scored 38 in the second quarter. It was just kind of wild. There's not really too much to say about this game. I swear Southern Utah didn't even have 100 yards. They had like 80 or something, and Utah had like 600. Their defense played very well. Obviously, Southern Utah isn't that good, but to beat any team by around 70 points is just kind of insane. And sitting right behind Utah, I have Arkansas. They won against South Carolina 44-30. This game was decent, I guess, all the way up to the fourth quarter, and Arkansas scored 23, and it was just kind of over at that point. KJ Jefferson, 18 for 21, 162 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 67 yards on the ground. Sanders, 24 rushes, 156 yards. Spencer Rattler played better than I thought he would. He was 24 for 39, 376 yards, and Antoine Wells definitely had the better game receiving. Then after them, I have NC State. They won their game 55-3. Not really much to talk about. Charleston Southern sucked, and that's about all I'm going to say. After them, I actually do have Penn State sitting at the 15th spot, and they won their game 46-10 over Ohio. Penn State finally had a good rushing game. Nicholas Singleton, 10 carries, 179 yards. If he could be the one to take the brunt of the load and be able to continue this, I think Penn State's going to be better than 15, especially when it comes to playing Ohio State and all the other teams in the Big Ten East. And then sitting right behind them, I have Michigan State. They won their game 52-0 against Akron. Even though Peyton Thorne looked like trash in this game, he threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, but their defense really showed up. They didn't let Akron really do anything, and Akron made so many mistakes. I'm pretty sure they had like 4 fumbles lost, which is kind of why Michigan State scored as much as they did. And sit behind Michigan State, I have Baylor at the 17th spot, and the 18th spot, I have Tennessee. They beat Pittsburgh. I didn't have Pittsburgh ranked because I just thought that they were overrated, but I still think it's a solid win for Tennessee. They won 34-27, and I do think they have a legitimate shot against like every team they play this year. Behind them at the 19th spot, I have Texas. I actually moved them up 2 because they would have beat Alabama, and then I probably would have put them in the top 5. But at the end of the day, they made mistakes too, missing field goals, stupid calls, all that type of stuff. But hopefully their quarterback situation gets ironed out, and I hope Quinn Ewers is okay and Hudson Card. Then next we have Ole Miss. They finally played really well and moved them ahead of Florida and Oregon. Pretty sure they won their game 52-0. And then after that, obviously Florida sitting at that 21 spot after their loss, and then Oregon right behind them. They won this week. And finally, I have Wake Forest breaking into the top 25 after they won 45-25 over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt actually started this season 2-0, and Wake Forest kind of came in and did their thing. They're obviously the better team, and that's just what it is. And now the last two. Now I have Texas A&M sitting at 24 and Notre Dame at 25. These both teams both got upset. Texas A&M lost 17-14 against Appalachian State, and Notre Dame lost 26-21 against Marshall, and they were both at home when they lost these games. I don't know what happened to Notre Dame, because week 1 when they played Ohio State, they came out with a fire and they actually played really hard, especially on defense. Their offense sucked, but their defense played really hard. And I don't know, I think after losing that game, after all the hype and how much Marcus Freeman got them hyped up for that Ohio State game, to face his alma mater is the reason why they performed well. But now just seeing how they played against Marshall, they're obviously overrated, and that game was just a fluke. And then with Texas A&M, they've been a fluke since the beginning. They shouldn't have been ranked 6. I was stupid. I ranked them like 7 or something like that. They are absolutely awful, especially on offense. Haynes King needs to be benched. They should start Max Johnson and just try and figure out if they can fix their offense, because scoring 14 points against Appalachian State at home is totally unacceptable for the amount of talent that that team has. And lastly, I wanted to call out a couple teams that I think are right on the brink of the top 25. I think Air Force should be right outside. I think Kansas State should be right outside as well. Even Marshall and Appalachian State are probably sitting right on the outside after beating top 10 teams at home. Then I'd probably have Cincinnati sitting out there as well. They perform really well. Maybe even Texas Tech. They did beat Houston, and Houston was a top 25 team. So shout out to those teams. And then shout out to Kansas for being 2-0. They beat West Virginia 55-42. I just feel really bad for JT Daniels because he is performing, but West Virginia's defense is god awful. But with all that being said, guys, that's the end of the video. Make sure to leave a like and comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.